she described the shakedown. She was scared. I mean, she was obviously no cameras, no recorders, but also scared that even somebody would see us just talking. Now, the mayor, Carlos Manzo, took a hard line. We're not going to stand for this, particularly a hard line against the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. He was using his own city police in operations to bust some of the Jalisco New Generation Cartel people. And he was going on, a lot of interviews saying, we're gonna shoot these guys, we're gonna stand up to these guys. So this caused him tension with the Mexican president, Claudia Sheinbaum, who started saying, no, we can't have extrajudicial killings, we can't have massacres, we can't have a war here. One of the quotes he said was, I might die, but you're gonna awake the tiger, which is Mexico. The people of Mexico are angry. On Day of the Dead, or on November the 1st, in the evening, he was in the center of Uruapan. So he was in this moment of this celebration, Day of the Dead. What a moment. And an assassin came and shot him dead at point blank range. It was a 17-year-old kid who himself was apparently a meth addict in and out of rehab, who they'd recruited and sent as cannon fodder.
It's probably harder to get drugs across the border right now, right? And so finding new ways of making money is important. So now you start going toward extortion of your own people. But is this the drug trade individuals that are now just pivoting towards this economic violence, or is it a whole different thing?
So in many cases, it's the same organizations, like the Jalisco New Generation Cartel. Now, the Jalisco New Generation Cartel is a very, very big, sprawling criminal organization. So it's got some people in the organization dedicated to trafficking drugs, but it's also got the local plazas, as they call them, the local turfs around the country. Important business for them is selling drugs locally. Selling crystal meth is a big deal. Selling weed and selling cocaine. It's generally the three drugs they sell, their drug selling points. And then they'll have their people dedicated to extortion. Really, their big income they're just doing is just shaking people down. And for them, it's kind of like easy money. It's like, why work for a living? Well, just go around with a bunch of AK-47s and AR-15s and say to people, you pay me, you work for a living, and you pay me. Now, I talked to one guy who'd actually been kicked out of the Morelos police, he says for actually denouncing the corruption there. But he believed that in that Morelos police force, about 20% of the force are corrupt. In that 20% are working for cartels. The problem is if you have 20% of the force working with the gangs, the cartels, it means they're always one step ahead. And I talked to her about the experience. She'd been getting these phone calls for a bunch of years. You get these people phone you up and say, you got to give Powers money, but she'd ignore the phone calls. And there's a common thing that happens across Mexico. A kid came into the store and he had a phone in his hand and he put it to her ear and said, there's a guy in the book saying, look, we know about your kids naming schools, their jobs, their partners, and saying you're going to have to pay us. And their first demand was $500,000 pesos, which is about $25,000-$30,000. Plus they're saying we want your car, we want everything. She went to the police with this. She had a contact in the police. She went to him and said, I've got this shakedown happening. And her police contact said, the best thing to do is come to an agreement and pay.
Damn.
Shot at twice by the gangsters there for doing this reporting. One time he was being shot at and he actually drove into a military base for protection. Although the extortion is happening so blatantly there, people are really scared to talk about this. And you really see on the ground, people are terrified.